You are now listening to the Walk by Faith podcast. I'm your host, Jasmine Stitt, aka The Pretty Plug. I'm on a mission to tell the lost story that combines faith in God and success here on this earth. The world often separates faith and entrepreneurship as if it was mutually exclusive. But I assure you it's not. I interview the following types of people: entrepreneurs, business women, and businessmen climbing the corporate ladder, founders of nonprofit organizations, college students following their passions, and also artists on the rise. They are movers and shakers in this generation, and I intend to plug you in week after week with content that inspires and educates you to be all that you are called to be. Thank you for tuning in, and now for this week's episode. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the 37th episode on the Walk by Faith podcast. This is the first Wednesday in December. Pretty soon, we'll be saying Happy New Year's and moving forward into 2019. And if I haven't said it enough, I want to thank each of you for listening to this podcast week after week. My team recently applied for the Google Podcast Creator Program through PRX, and I wanted to share with you our newly innovative elevator pitch. So here it goes. This podcast is hosted by the Pretty Plug, an influential and relatable Southern belle that provides business acumen with everyday people, that finances and sponsors you like Oprah, promotes your business and platform like a Forbes magazine, and provokes you to walk by faith in every area of your life. So, you guys, I'll let you know if we get it. It's going to be a great experience if we do, and I feel really strongly about it. But again, if it's already for us, we would have it, and it's nobody can take it away from us. So just to get back to the episode, during the last weeks of November, I had the pleasure of attending the Four Visionaries Conference in Atlanta, Georgia. The Four Visionaries Conference was a millennial Christian entrepreneur retreat. And during this retreat, it was crafted specifically for the overthinking and overplanning entrepreneur who needs to learn how to relinquish some of that control and those plans to God. This is an exclusive and intimate cabin getaway experience crafted for you to build your faith and your business. And I want to tell you guys, I have never been around so many women that love God and also want to thrive in business ventures. I randomly ran across this conference when I was on Instagram. I don't know. I think the algorithm is doing a really good job because I took a leap of faith. I went to Atlanta. I paid for everything, and I was just completely overwhelmed and overjoyed by my experience. And along with that, I got to meet all of the jam-packed and powerful speakers that were there. And they were Christian entrepreneurs that I had never heard about. A lot of them were from Atlanta. I got to meet Dana Chanel, and the experience itself was just like a revitalization and a acclamation and a confirmation that other women, and there are other people out there in the world that do love God and do want to take their business to the next level. And you don't have to separate the two. You don't have to go to a faith conference and then turn around and do a business conference. You can do it at the same time. So if you're listening out there, I want you all to know that you should go to the For Visionaries Only conference in 2019 because it was a treat for me, and I know it will be a treat for you. And no, they did not sponsor this. I'm just telling you because I really, really loved it and I enjoyed my retreat experience. So along with that, it was a jam-packed conference with wonderful speakers, and I happened to have the pleasure of hosting one of them on the podcast today. Our guest is an award-winning technology entrepreneur, author, and business strategist. She teaches business owners how to fund, increase exposure, and build Christ-centered brands that she specializes in online training, books, and in-person events. Her strategies help small business owners authentically tell their unique brand story that resonates with their target audience. It positions them as an expert and increases their exposure on and offline. Y'all, she an engineer, chemical to be exact. Okay. I love meeting engineers because, to be honest, everywhere I go, somebody's an engineer and they do nothing with their degree, but it's because of the degree that you can STEM and do so many other great things. She has cracked the code on how to successfully brand, fund, and launch small businesses. So Chanel and her companies have been featured in national publications and broadcasts, including The Real, BET, Enterprise, Essence, Ebony, Forbes, Yahoo, Business Insider, and now the Walk by Faith podcast. Okay, so I want to happily introduce to you Miss Chanel Martin. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. Thank you so much for having me. That was a wonderful introduction. Thank you.
You're welcome. You're welcome. And one thing I like to do is just start off with an icebreaker, especially in whichever industry that you're covering. And I feel like you have a wide range of industries, right? You are breaking records with selling amazing books. You are an expert in crowdfunding and helping small businesses. So I think my number one thing that I want to ask that you just demystify or just give me 3 fun facts on what it means to be a Christian entrepreneur and why have we been building businesses without God at the center all of these years. And it's something that's becoming popular today, but why is it just now 2018 that I'm starting to see the trend?
Right. So, okay, what was that first question again?
Yes. So the first question is, it's 2018 and I really want to know, why are Christian and entrepreneurship businesses now starting to skyrocket? And why haven't we all been building businesses with faith and entrepreneurship at the center?
All right. So that's an excellent question. So number one, God is raising up Christian entrepreneurs and people who are unapologetically bold in their love for God and their love for business. And so we're seeing a trend, as we've noticed, that there has been an increase in, Black women-owned businesses and small businesses globally with the rise of the internet and just the low barrier of entry for people to create brands and sell products online, especially with social media and social media marketing and email marketing. And so in a nutshell, it's easier for anyone to start a business. And so we have figured out a way to include God in our businesses. And I'm going to tell you why. I believe in the past, we didn't typically merge entrepreneurship and business because the church has a very interesting but somewhat jaded view of finances and money and working. You have some people on one end that believe that all Christians are supposed to suffer and that, having money is the root of all evil, right? Without carefully examining the whole scripture. Right. It's the love of money. And you just have all of these misconceptions. And then typically in the African American community, a lot of our counterparts come from lower income families, and let alone them try to start businesses. But, they have struggled to get the knowledge and the resources, made to be able to start that business. And so again, with the internet and the low barrier to entry, what we've noticed is that now people also have access to podcasts like this.
Yeah.
And resources, like you said, you found out about the For Visionaries Only retreat on Instagram, and retreats and different things like this, where God has really put a mandate on business owners to talk about their faith and to talk about business.
Wow. And I know for me, I started walking by faith like 3 or 4 years ago, but I didn't think about making it a business until like last year. And then I went to this conference and everybody had faith at the center. And I was like, man, this is dope. I was just like, everybody been calling me crazy walking by faith. But then I go to this conference in Atlanta and everybody was talking about God and business. And I was not the only one. So it was just a pleasant surprise. So I think my next question is, I know you currently live in Atlanta, but is that always where you lived? And can you just take us through like some of the history of like where you're from and how you got to Atlanta and into what you're doing now?
Right. So I haven't always lived in Atlanta. I am born and raised from Oklahoma City, Oklahoma, where I lived most of my life. I spent some time in Arkansas as well. In Little Rock, I lived there for a brief period of time, but I'm born and raised in Oklahoma City, and I went to a performing arts school. I studied theater. I was Miss Black Oklahoma City while I was there. And I wanted to go to college in Atlanta because I wanted to be an actress. And so I remember telling my mom, I was like, you know what? I want to be an actress. I was really, really good in theater, really, really good in theater. Actually, I won several awards in state competitions. I used to compete in theater competitions and monologue competitions, and I've written award-winning monologues. So that's actually was my first love and my first passion. And my mother came to me and she was just like, have you ever thought about being an engineer? Getting to the acting industry is going to be very difficult and you might not make the money that you want to make. Or, she gave me this whole spiel, and I was really good in math and science. And so she sent me to a math and science academy, and I did very well there. I quickly grasped on to chemistry, which is one of the subjects, and did very well in chemistry. And so she kind of stewarded me towards becoming a chemical engineer. And so I was just like, okay, I can be a chemical engineer because I loved beauty and hair and skincare products. And so I was like, I had a goal or a dream to start my own hair care line or something in hair and beauty, or create beauty products or something, which I did actually end up getting to do that. We'll talk about that a little bit later. And so I was like, okay, I could be a chemical engineer, and maybe that would help me in that pursuit of building and creating something. The ultimate goal was to be an entrepreneur. And so I was looking at Atlanta, and I saw the bustling entertainment scene at the time when I was getting ready to go to college. And I said, wow, this might be a great opportunity to get my engineering degree and to be in the center of a growing entertainment city. And this was years ago, even before it's anywhere close to what it is now. And along the way, I kind of started focusing on engineering and went through college. Started out at Clark Atlanta University, did a dual degree program, spent some time over at Georgia Tech where I met my husband, and ultimately finished out at North Carolina A&T where I got my master's degree. And an opportunity came. Me and my husband got married. I was in North Carolina. He was in Alabama, and an opportunity came for us to move back to Georgia because I was starting a hair care company in 2012, and I've been here ever since.
Wow. And you guys, so she's an engineer. Her husband is an engineer. And then you have 3 children, right? And that's
Yes.
also a part of your brand. And I just wanted to talk about like what it means to be like a mom and an entrepreneur and a wife. And, with women, we feel like we can't have it all. Or, in my friend groups, I'm about to be 25. I hear this misconception. You can't have it all. We got this time clock. I mean, it's just so many things that the world tells us, but I'm like, but I serve a God that will definitely allow me to do all of these things that I want to in his timing. So I just want you to speak on that, on being a mom and a wife and an entrepreneur.
Right. So yes, I am all of those things. I was an entrepreneur first before I was a mom. I had my first child in my startup while building my first startup, which was my Ivana, which actually I guess is technically not a startup anymore. It's been around for about 6 years. And so I had to, my daughter, Sydney, I call her startup baby because, she kind of went with me and we was flying everywhere, and she would come to the office with me when she could. And I traveled a lot, and we'd figured out places for her to go. She stayed with grandparents and different things of that nature. And so that was something that I had to learn. I had to learn very quickly how to kind of multitask, how to pick those, I call them grace moments, where there were opportunities for me to work, but I still wanted to spend time with my children, with my child. And I did all that ripping and running for a few years with my daughter, Sydney. And when she was 2.5, we had her brother, Q. So Sydney's now 4 and Q is 2 years old at this point. And I ended up stepping down from my hair care company, my Ivana, and to focus on family and just I just needed to really heal and go through some soul searching, because it was a lot that was setting me up for my book, that we'll talk about a little bit later, 31 Prayers for Spiritual Wealth. And it was through the birth of my son that, God really began to speak to me about healing and deliverance. So that's I say my son has a healing anointing because his birth ushered in me and my husband's healing.
Wow.
So that was my son. And so now I have 2 kids, and it was a struggle, but then I started to figure out, okay, what are some ways that I can work around them? And then once my daughter got a little bit older, she's very intelligent. So she became more self-sufficient. And then my son, he pretty much kind of does his own thing. So I figured out a schedule around them. And then God ended up, giving me some more grace moments where I find little pockets of time to work on things. And so I really had to get really good at time management. And then I most recently, this past September, had my third child. Her name is Chloe.
Yes,
And
Chloe.
so she's, as we speak right now, she's 2 months old. So if you do the math, I got a 4-year-old, a 2-year-old, and a 2-month-old, and they're all about 2 years apart. And even while I was pregnant, God began to show me, just again, I had to figure out when did I have the time to work on those things. And with the birth of my child, Chloe, with me becoming pregnant, it really brought me and my husband together on one accord where he was able to help out more. He saw the vision and where I was going. And so with his help, even right now as we're recording the podcast, he's tending to all 3 kids right now. So it's, in a nutshell, I don't have very much time, which I don't like, because you kind of get left out of things. People automatically assume that you can't come or go or be wherever they, invite you. But I don't have a lot of time, but I do try to manage the time that I have very well. And so I might only have an hour, 2 hours today to work on whatever it is that I want to work on. But I'm going to make sure that those 2 hours are the most productive 2 hours that I could possibly have. And sometimes that requires not getting a lot of sleep, being tired. But, that's just pretty much through God's grace. He'll give you the endurance and the strength and the strategy to manage all of them.
Yes, I agree. And you guys, when I heard her speak and she started giving business acumen, and then I checked her page out and she was a mom, I was like, yes. I was like, this is what I'm talking about. This is somebody that I know I can aspire to be, and this has a good balance between all of it. And I remember you told me, one of the keys to success there is, one, it's hard,
yes,
but it's manageable.
Yes.
And,
absolutely.
Yeah. And I was just like, I think with that level of the expectation to know that it's not going to be something that's easy. But when you decided to do engineering, that wasn't easy. When you decided to, be an entrepreneur, that of course is never easy. And then, marriage and all of those different components, nothing is easy, but with hard work and dedication and consistency, I think you can have it all. And y'all, Chanel is out here doing it. So for all of my friend girls that's like, no, you can't. I mean, well, I know somebody. She was on the podcast, and guess what? She's a living witness that you can have it all.
You can, and don't let social media tell you how you have to have it all. I think if we fall into the social media trap, they treat kids like ornaments. Or little cute little things to have to dangle and say, hey, I have a kid. We got matching outfits. We're going to go on photo shoots and have crispy looking pictures of us doing random mommy and daddy and family stuff. And that's not what my life looks like at all. And I never try to paint that picture. If you go look on my social media, you'll see some, the pictures they just look like however they look. I got bags underneath my eyes because I haven't been asleep. I haven't had a lot of sleep, and that's okay. I'm not going to face tune and filter what I look like. What I look like is what I look like. It's my truth. It's my reality. And one thing that I thrive on is being transparent. As God continues to elevate me and platform me, and those who've been able to watch my journey can see a real show of God's hand on my life, and they can say, you know what? Chanel talked about it. It was hard, but I saw her get through it, and so can I.
Yes, yes. And with that, it's pen and paper time, y'all, because Chanel about to start hitting us with her expertise, with her experience, with acumen. Like, she's about to do it. So get your pen and paper out, because we about to go to school. Number one question for you, Chanel: how do you become spiritually wealthy?
That is a great question. And where the term spiritual wealth came from, actually, I hadn't really heard very many people use it. I'm usually an innovator. So when y'all hear people say spiritual wealth, no, you know who coined the term. Actually, I'm probably going to trademark it soon. But where she's getting that phrase, I have a book called 31 Prayers for Spiritual Wealth. And it's a book, a strategy, a prayer strategy book for small business owners. And it stemmed from a prayer challenge. God had led me to do a business prayer challenge for 31 days last September. It actually started on my birthday, September 13th. And it went through October 13th. And every day, every morning, I got up and I wrote out a prayer for that morning. And I gave like some background behind that prayer, whatever God led me to discuss. And so the prayers were written in real time. I tried to write them earlier in advance and have everything automated, but that's not what God wanted. And so what it did was it aided to the authenticity of what God was saying for those who needed it at that moment. And as a result, God told me, he said, hey, this is going to be a book. And I was like, okay, what is this book going to be called? Because it wasn't just a devotional, and nothing against devotionals. It wasn't just a regular devotional. It was deeper than that, because we put strategy in there, and it also combined business as well. And I was like, okay, well, what are we really doing here? I'm not actually giving you, for the most part, just strict business strategy from like a real world perspective. I'm giving you a spiritual strategy. And so God began to speak to me about how no matter how much money you have in the earth realm, if your soul isn't right, if your soul isn't healthy, right, then you could be spiritually poor. And God began to show me some areas in my life, and I speak up on them in my book, 31 Prayers for Spiritual Wealth, in which I needed some resurrecting. So there were generational curses in my bloodline. There was some healing that needed to take place. I was living with unforgiveness. I had fear and rejection. There were some areas in which I wasn't totally submitted. I needed my faith to be increased. I would ask for favor. I wanted my inheritance released. I needed more clarity on our finances. I needed help staying focused, right? And it showed me where this was a path to obtaining spiritual wealth. Mm. And if your spirit, your soul is healthy and wealthy, and you have natural wealth, and you combine those together, you are a force that God can use mightily in the kingdom.
Yes. And y'all, I've been reading that book every day. I've been sending it to my team every day. They can attest to this. I've been sending it to my branding group meetings. Like, I am literally telling people about this book. I've had a friend girl, she bought the book because I have just been like not just going in and telling people what it did for me. And just a transparency moment, you know, I've moved from Arkansas to Texas to New York, and I've experienced a lot of rejection when it comes to friendships or when it comes to relationships. Mm-hmm. You know, I had 2 breakups in New York City with guys in Texas. And I was just like, dang, why I can't keep a guy? And is it because New York? Like, I don't know. But more so, like, I just felt a huge feeling of rejection. That was my number one thing that I feel like I've been battling. And when Chanel, when you got up there at the conference and you spoke on rejection, and that was your thing also, and how you had to pray that out and you had to believe it so God can transform your mind, and just like deliverance. And I was just like, I felt I got it that day. I don't even
Wow.
claim that I have rejection anymore. You know,
Amen.
if a relationship didn't work out, it is what it is. If a friendship doesn't work out, it is what it is. You know, I have my identity in Christ. And that book, it gave
Absolutely.
me a strategic prayer. In fact, you can read this book every day this entire year, and I feel like you're going to get something different every time. So
Absolutely.
that book is amazing. And Chanel, I wanted you to speak on deliverance also, because I know that that's like a term that, you know, it's like, oh my gosh, is this becoming too churchy of a podcast? Like, no, like we can be
Right.
delivered out of things. And I just wanted you to speak on that also.
Oh yeah, absolutely. So I live, eat, and breathe deliverance, and deliverance saved my life. And I'm definitely not an overly churchy person. I do, operate in a capacity of ministry, but I love for trap music,
Yeah.
and, and I love to have a good time as well. But deliverance is what sets you free. It gets rid of strongholds and demonic influence that could be taking over, that is probably taking over your life in different areas. And so a lot of times you'll see things happen in your life where you see a repeat effect, right? You'll constantly go through the same test. You'll constantly struggle with the same thing. You'll constantly get sick with the same thing. And what you'll realize, if you start to see a pattern in a certain area, 9 times out of 10, then there is some sort of, when I say demonic, I mean, I have to call it what it is. There's some sort of demonic influence. There's a stronghold, right? And strongholds, a lot of people don't like to acknowledge the devil. We're in a society where folks want to believe that everything is roses and peaches and energy and whatever else people are doing. But let's call it what it is. The devil is the devil. The devil is our enemy. And the enemy is very cunning and he's very crafty. And so he has strongholds that influence our lives. Sometimes they are acquired through different things that we go through. Sometimes they're passed down generationally. And so you could be living with tons of strongholds and not even recognize why you have not been able to come over a certain hump. And that definitely merges into your business as well. And so we talk about that in my book, 31 Prayers for Spiritual Wealth. One of the things that I realized in my family, me and my husband, more specifically me, I've always had I've always had an anointing for receiving large lump sums of cash. Okay. That's just something that, I mean, seriously, I'm just being honest. It's why I've been able to raise a lot of money. Money comes to me. Now, what I noticed is I would get these large lump sums. I mean, I won all the scholarships at my church in high school, right? To go into college. I got a presidential scholarship, a dean scholarship to go to college. I would get these grants awarded to me, to study my master's. I got like a $20,000 grant. When I start to look at the trend, money would always come to me. But sure as when I got with my husband, sure as the money come from me. Let me go take a few steps back. When I'm talking about money would come to me, but 1 year in college, I had so many scholarships, I had to turn down scholarships. Okay.
Wow.
Yes.
Is that even allowed?
Yeah, I mean, because I went over the cost of attendance and they will only award you. So let's say if they say the cost of attendance is 50,000 and I got 55, I can't take on the 5,000.
Wow.
I have to. So I'm just telling you, not to brag, but just to show you one of the things that God has definitely anointed me for. But there's a but side. Sure, once I got with my husband, and I'm not blaming him, but you'll see why I say this. Just as soon as we get these large lump sums of money, the money would leave.
Hmm.
And I was like, hold up now. We getting money. We have coinage, but why can't I keep it? Why? So what I learned is that we had a general curse on our finances. When I talked to my husband about this, because he made a joke, he said, well, maybe I'm cursed. And I laughed at him. I said, ain't nobody cursed. Because we don't talk about that in Christianity enough. I was like, oh, there's no way we could be cursed. We're Christians. We love God. And when my husband lost his job as an engineer, as a sales engineer, and we had just had our son, I said, okay, God, what are you trying to tell me? And God said, you have a curse on a generational curse on your finances through your husband's bloodline. And when we started to take a look at that, my mother-in-law, his mom had filed bankruptcy. His dad had filed bankruptcy. His brother-in-law had filed bankruptcy. His sister had filed bankruptcy. His brother, who just passed away, he was overstressed because he had too many bills and was probably headed towards bankruptcy. And so were we.
Mm.
And that is not something that you have to accept. And then when we go back and we think about the words that were spoken, because I talk about word curses in my book. You know, Chris's mom would say things like, my husband's mom would say things like, "Oh, we just bad with money." So gave life to that thing. So how many of us are struggling because of generational iniquities and sins that we had nothing to do with? So we have a cliche thing going around. You've seen memes talking about, I'm a generational curse breaker for my family. But what does that mean? It's cute to quote that. But what that really means, have you denounced the enemy? Have you cleansed your soul? Have you lived a life of repentance? And what I realized what I had to do, I had to go back and I had to repent on their behalf. And I ended up getting a book, Operating in the Courts of Heaven, which I talked about it for visionaries only. And I absolutely love that book. And it gave clarity. And I give them a shout out in my book because it really helped me to understand a perspective of the importance of deliverance. And so what I mean by deliverance, and I'm just going to keep it real frank, it is the casting out of devils. And what we do is, as a deliverance minister, all we do, because God has given us authority through the blood of Jesus Christ, we have the ability to tell Satan to leave.
Yeah.
We have the ability to tell rejection to leave. We have the ability to command generational curses be broken. We have the authority as believers in Christ to call things out. Now, the enemy is very cunning in the way he nestles into different things, into different strongholds into our life. So we may think, okay, you know what? I feel, I'm a perfectionist, right? But really that perfectionism is rooted in rejection. And so maybe you aren't operating at your best because it has to be perfect. And that is a tool of the enemy to keep you from moving forward at the speed that you need to move, because it has to be perfect. But when you go back and you look at the root of that thing, you find out that it's rooted in rejection, but you are really afraid to be rejected. And so that is what I mean by deliverance. You attack things at the root from a spiritual standpoint. And then, of course, I'm not saying don't go to counseling, but you need to get rid of that thing, because we have two realms. We have an earth realm and we have a spirit realm. And, what the word says, we fight against not flesh and blood, but against principalities. Right? I'm probably butchering up the scripture, but y'all get what I'm trying to say. And so you have to attack things from a spiritual perspective. And it's cute for us to say, like, we fight in a spirit, but combating spiritual warfare is hard. And I'm going to tell you why he attacks Christian entrepreneurs, the enemy, because the Bible says that money is the answer to all things. And when you possess money, you become a kingdom solutionist.
Wow.
So that, you get what I'm saying?
Yeah. You dropped the mic. I couldn't say nothing else.
So that's why your business, your finances, your inheritances, your mind is being attacked, because at the root of it all, that's why they say for the love of money is the root of all evil, but money is the answer. So who you going to answer to? Are you going to answer to the kingdom, or are you going to answer to the enemy?
Wow.
So that's the importance of deliverance in your business, in your life.
Wow, Chanel. We Christian entrepreneurs, y'all are kingdom solutionists.
Yes, kingdom solutionists.
I never thought of it that way, but God don't.
Absolutely.
So now, Chanel, let's talk about the businesses that you have started, and also just integrate you leaving your 9 to 5 and actually pursuing your dreams full time and being an entrepreneur full time, because I know you talked about that too. The people need to know, okay? Because I'm going to work every day and they ask me to do stuff and I'm just like, this is cute, but I really can be doing something else. But I'm still here. I know this is my season. But yeah, just talk to us about your businesses that you have definitely started, and then also just you leaving your 9 to 5.
Right, absolutely. And so I left my 9 to 5 in 2013. I was an engineer and had worked at AT&T for about a year. And I believe that I heard God tell me it's time to go. Now, the word says we prophesy in part. So after a self check and a come to Jesus moment and many a struggle, I realized that I didn't have the whole picture. That God was saying it was time to go, but I also believe that God was saying it's time to prepare to go. And so I jumped out and got my husband on board. He's still working, and I quit my job. And me and my husband, both engineers, were making really, really, really good money. As my husband likes to put it, we was hood rich. So we had, a good 5 figures in the bank, saved up a good 5 figures in the bank. Where I was like, okay, I mean, we got dough. I could quit my job and I could go do this entrepreneurship thing, give it a good 6 months. And if it don't work, I can always go back to work. I had never had a problem getting a job. So I quit my job, and at first everything was good, but then we began to run out of money. So now I'm like, oh my goodness, we were trying to get funded. We didn't get the funding that we thought we were going to get. Although we were still building, yet to become profitable. I quit my job on a hope and a promise, thinking, okay, we're getting ready to raise this round. So what I mean by raise this round, for those of you who are not familiar, I have a tech company. And so typically technology companies, we get investors, and we were getting ready to raise a fundraising round, which is a Series A, seed round, a seed round, which could be anywhere up to $1 million. And so we were looking to raise a $900,000 seed round. And if we would have been successful at that $900,000 seed round, then my paycheck wouldn't have missed a beat. And so we had just won this huge competition where we had got $50,000. I mean, we were doing great. So it was like, okay, this was my key for me to go ahead. We were doing great. I had bank in the bank. Okay. And I'm like, my husband, an engineer, he's still going to be good. We're straight. I get pregnant like a month after I quit my job. And oh Lord, I'm pregnant. So now I'm really trying to get back to work. And it wasn't as hard. It wasn't as easy for me to get a job. Because as an engineer, as a chemical engineer, the types of jobs that I would have required me to leave my family and move out of state. And I wasn't willing to leave Atlanta. We had just bought a house the year before. I wasn't trying to leave. My husband was settled in his job. And so I didn't find a job. And then now I'm showing that I'm big and fat, and I'm just like, okay, we just got to make it work. And so that led to years of ups and downs. And I feel like unnecessary struggle. Now, I go back and forth on whether or not I heard God. And as a prophetess, I know I heard God, and I know I heard him very clearly, but I did not discern the time and the season. And I say all of this to say, social media will have you think you need to quit your job. Now, I wasn't on the social media, I'm quitting my job train. I could have cared less. It wasn't as much in the forefront as it is right now. We're talking about 2013, right? So, people were still doing businesses and entrepreneurship, but it wasn't like it is now. We're talking about the end of 2018 going into 2019. And so that wasn't why I quit my job, but social media will have y'all thinking that you need to quit your job. Entrepreneurship is pretty, it's fun. It's that top lifestyle. I'm making money from my couch or whatever the new buzzword is. And folks be like, man, I'm ready to quit my job. They make you think, oh, you just got to jump and take the risk without really educating people on what they really need to do to prepare. So if I had to go back and do it again, number one, I would have talked to Jesus a little bit more, and I would have said, okay, God, you said it's time to go, but does that mean right now, or does that mean prepare to go? Right? Because when you think about it, sometimes people say, okay, we're getting ready to go. It's time to go. That doesn't mean that you are instantly teleported to where you need to be, right? You're not automatically at go.
Yeah.
There's some preparation to get to the location.
Yeah.
Right. So I feel like had I done this differently, and this is just for any of you guys who are aspiring to leave your job, I would have figured out a way to at least cover my living expenses. And that could have been with a part-time job. And right now things are cool because Uber and stuff is here. I don't think Uber had made it to Atlanta just yet, but there's ways right now that you could put together a strategy where you can, let's say you say, okay, my bills, my living expenses are $2,000 a month. That's my rent, my da da da. Get you a strategy for how you're going to replace that $2,000 a month and not depend on revenue from your business, especially if you're just starting out, because you never know when you're going to have to reinvest that. That's number one. Then you need to have, I personally would have at least a year. I had over 6 months living expenses covered, and that wasn't enough. I would have at least a year living expenses saved up. All right. I know folks is like, oh man, I got to have all that. Yep. Yep. Because what you don't want to do is you don't want to build your brand and be stressed out at the same time. Right? Because that is a tool of the enemy. He will play down to your insecurities for the lack of money that you have. Another thing you need to do while you're working at your job is get your money that you're working as an investor in your business. Go get coaching, pay for a mentorship, right? Get everything set up. Get your website, whatever it is, all the things that are going to cost you money, get all of those things in order and get those things set up. Get all your legal agreements together. Get your lawyers, get your contracts, your paperwork drawn up. Get everything you need for your business set up while you have your job. Because I guarantee you, if you broke with your job, baby, you do not need to quit your job to pursue entrepreneurship. You haven't even figured out how to live with a job.
Yeah, it makes sense.
I mean, seriously, that's not the stuff people are telling you and being honest and talking to you about. You can't even live with someone guaranteeing you money every week, every 2 weeks. How are you going to do that for yourself? And finally, you need to be a good employee, because you are still working for those whom you are serving.
Conviction.
Be convicted. That's my job. I'm going to convict you. And these were all things that I wish that when I sat down and was like, I'm getting ready to leave my job, that somebody would have sat down and talked to me about.
Yeah. It makes sense. Y'all, she giving y'all the works, okay? I hope y'all paper and pen is fully writing and it has so much content on it. So also, you have raised money consistently, and I know you told me that you can sell anything, right? So how do you do your pitches? How do you manage funding and getting people to do PR? And I know these are also products that you sell, so you can plug that in as well with this as well. Yeah.
Right. So you're absolutely right. I believe that I have the ability to sell just about anything, especially if it's something that somebody already needs. What I have done, I've helped raise over $500,000 using different ways. Crowdfunding. I've had 2 successful crowdfunding campaigns, 25,000 and 15,000. We've done a friends and family round where we gathered friends and family and got them to give us $40,000. I've gotten, some VC money and, different angel investors and things of that nature. So, I was able to figure out how to put together a formula and pitch competitions. Oh my goodness. We killed pitch competitions. A lot of our funding came from winning pitch competitions, which are great resources for those of you who are entrepreneurs who are looking for equity-free funding. And you definitely should apply for pitch competitions because they're great. So we figured out a strategy. And this strategy was actually taught. We have attended about 3 business accelerator programs, and all of them focused on pitching and teaching us how to pitch. And so I put together a formula that I call your brand story, but it's really a pitch that works, that I've shared with people, and people are getting funded. They're getting sponsorships. They're getting media and press for their business. They're getting more customers. And it's just a format in which I guide you in a way to properly share your brand and what it is that you do. And that brand story / pitch can be modified so many different ways, such that it fits whatever it is that you are looking to obtain. And so I do have a few products. So I do have some fundraising products and that you can go on my website on ChanelEMartin.com. But one of the things that I'm really focused on selling in this season is I've kind of put together everything that I've learned into one big mega class, and it's called Brand Your Brand. I know, so cliche, right? It's called Brand Your Brand. And so what I essentially show you is it's a brand exposure like strategy class, and I walk you step by step in how to create a brand story and how to effectively communicate who you are, what you do, and what you sell to your target audience, both online and offline. And so that's one thing that I do. And you can go, I've built an online learning platform. It's my own. I own it. It's not on Teachable or anything like that. Nothing against that. But my husband developed the site, and it's called Blessed Profits. And, it's a training center that we're building up in one of our first classes is Brand Your Brand. So you can go to blessedprofits.com and click on enroll, and you will see Brand Your Brand. And I'm giving you all of my secrets, what we use to raise $500,000 in funding, what we use to launch successful pre-order campaigns, what I've used to sell subscription services, what I've used to get featured in The Real, Forbes, Ebony, Essence, and things that I've learned as being part of the media. So I've written for Black Enterprise since 2014, and I get pitched all the time from publicists. And also I've also am a media personality right now for Power 92.3 in Atlanta. And so one of my job is to cover breaking news stories. So I have the ability to not only come at it from a perspective of being a small business owner, but in a brand, but as someone who is looking to cover stories for business owners such as yourself and the listeners. And yeah,
yes.
So I think that kind of breaks it down. And I've had tons and tons and tons of success stories from people who have used my strategies. And I'm going to give you guys just something for free real quick.
I'm ready. Listen, I was listening.
All right.
I'm like everybody else taking notes.
Okay, so what you need to do, I'm going to give you guys just a really quick template for an elevator pitch. And I must say, Jasmine, your elevator pitch was phenomenal when you talked about your podcast. So you're definitely on the right track, and I will be praying that your podcast is selected. Absolutely.
Thank you.
So what you want to do, so an elevator pitch, for those of you who are not familiar, an elevator pitch is a 30-second explanation of who you are and what you do. It's short and simple, yet powerful, and could create a lasting impression. And so this is what you want to do. You want to say, hello, my name is, then insert your name, and I am, then insert your titles, and then period. And then you're going to say, I, or you can put in your company name, help or helps. Then you could put in another adjective that describes what you do. Then you want to add your target customer, who uses your products or services, do. Then you want to add in your solution and how you can help them, by or with, and give the name of your product or service. So, hello, my name is, insert your name, and I am, insert your titles. I, or you can replace that with your company name, help. Then you can put another adjective that describes what you do. Then put in your target customer or the people who use your products and services. Do, add in your solution and how you can help them. Buy, and give the name of your product or service. So I'll give you an example with me writing in those things, and you can see how it all plays out. So, hello, my name is Chanel E. Martin, and I am an award-winning technology entrepreneur, author, and business strategist. I teach business owners how to fund, increase exposure, and build Christ-centered brands with specialized online trainings, books, and in-person events. And there you go.
Wow. Chanel, where can I find all of this information if I want to go and purchase some of your trainings and and just to get connected with you and maybe join one of your mentorship hubs, or just just tell us how we can do all of these things.
Right. So you can just follow me on social media, and I will route you to wherever you need to go by something I post, or you can click on a link. But yeah, I'm Chanel Ebony, which I'm going to change that pretty soon. So hopefully by the time people listen to this, so I'm going to give 2 names. So I'm either Chanel Ebony, which is CHANEL, B as in boy, O as in Oprah, N as in Nancy, E as in Edward. So Chanel Ebony, CHANEL, B as in boy, O as in Oprah, N as in Nancy, E as in Edward. And I'm Chanel Ebony on every single social media platform. Now, depending upon when you listen to this, let's say, someone's coming back a year later and they're listening to this because they just found out about you, Jasmine, and just like, oh my goodness, I'm going to binge all 37 of these amazing, amazing podcasts. If you're listening to this a little bit later, after 2019, after January of 2019, I am going to the name Chanel E. Martin on everything on social media, because that's who I am. So Chanel Ebony was the past, and Chanel E. Martin is my personality name. So that is who I will be becoming. So, but if you go click on Chanel Ebony, I'll probably create like a little dummy page and tell you to go to Chanel E. Martin.
Okay. And we got 2 more questions, y'all. One, you talked to me about you being a well-kept secret. You go to your page, you be like, wow, like, I don't know this woman, she do all of this. And even your route to being on for Visionaries Only, you were saying, hey, like, I don't have the thousands and 100,000s of followers like everyone else. You taught me that God is my PR. So I was just like, please tell the listeners that as well.
Right. So, I teach this in my class, Brand Your Brand, but it doesn't matter if you have 1 or 1 million followers, because think about it, y'all. Folks was doing business and making bank and getting opportunities before social media. And I think a lot of us put too much pressure on ourselves to have this massive following as we think it relates to, us making more money. Now, I'm not saying that you can't make money and gain opportunities from social media, because I've gotten a lot of opportunities from social media, but it's the way that you frame yourself and that you frame your story. Number one, if you're walking in purpose and you're being obedient to what God tells you to do, and if you are showing up as your brand every single day, people are going to recognize you. God is going to put your name on the mind of someone that can give you more exposure, someone that can expand your reach, someone that can help you become more influential. And I will say this, I have yet to have to actually solicit for opportunities.
Wow.
People come to me, even from being on the 4 Visionaries Only, as a workshop presenter. One of the things that I did, I met Jasmine, the creator. God told me to do a name your price, business strategy session. And every so often I'll do, coaching sessions for like free or extremely low price, or name your price, just depending upon what God is leading me to do, at that moment. And so what I do is, so she signed up for Name Your Price strategy session, and we talked, and I believe she was just so blown away by our 1-hour session, that she was just like, you know what, I'm doing a faith, an entrepreneurship retreat, and I want to know if this is something that you would be interested in participating in. And this was earlier this year. And I said, absolutely. And it's been me showing up and being consistent to what God has called me to be. Writing the book like he told me to write, promoting it, sharing my story, sharing my testimony. And I talk about this in my class, Brand Your Brand, becoming an authority, right? Becoming a resource for people, sewing into other people. So I don't mind giving away things for free. I have tons of free webinars that people have shared with their friends and followers and things of that nature. And then you end up becoming top of mind for opportunities. Opportunities will literally flow to you.
Yeah.
And so, yes, God is your PR, but first, for God to be your PR, you got to have something to publicize.
Oh.
I'm just telling you, because folks want to be exalted and trying to figure out, why ain't getting no opportunities? Well, you ain't told nobody.
Yeah.
And just posting flyers on your little social media ain't enough, y'all. That ain't enough.
Chanel, she giving it to y'all.
I mean, I'm just saying.
Or you want to be like the lead this or the lead that, and you haven't even started.
Come on now. There you go.
Like,
there you go. No, I mean, you're absolutely right. You have to Steward what you have.
Yes. So, Chanel, my last and most famous question: what does walking by faith mean to you?
Yeah, of course, walking by faith. So I'm gonna go take a few steps back. I have a newsletter called the Spiritual Wealth Digest that I send out. I try to send out weekly, and I try to deliver. I do deliver a word of the Lord, and what God wanted me to share with everyone, line between foolishness and faith. And faith, of course, we know what the Bible says that faith is. It's believing in something that you cannot see, believing in something bigger than you, and believing that God is going to help you along that process. And I have to preface the fine line between faith and foolishness, because walking by faith is one thing and walking by with foolishness is another. And I feel like as Christians, we have a tendency to put everything on faith when really we are being foolish and we're not being responsible for our decision making, right?
Yeah.
And so walking by faith is trusting and believing God, but also seeking God for everything and being patient and waiting on those answers, and not trying to create our own scenarios and solutions and trying to rush God. And we have a tendency to say, well, God told me to quit my job, so I'm going to step out on faith. No, boo-boo. Make sure you're not stepping out on foolishness. And so walking by faith is staying in tune and getting in God's presence and being sure that the path that you are going is what God has led you to.
Wow, Chanel. I mean, I'm completely. If you can lay me out right now, put some hands on me. I feel like you touched my whole life. And
Thank you.
I know you're touching the listener's life. And I always like to end the podcast with a Bible scripture. And I'm on day 13 of the 31 prayers for spiritual wealth. And day 13, or prayer 13, is called purpose. And the Bible scripture is, you saw me before I was born. Every day of my life was recorded in your book. Every moment was laid out before a single day has passed.
Jesus.
Psalms 139:16. And that is for anybody listening, that your identity is already in him. He already knows where you are, where you're going, where you've been. He understood that you would make mistakes, but you would get back up, especially if you have faith that he will take over. And I just want that anybody is listening right now, if Chanel could do it, if I can start a podcast and I can start off with one listener, I'm at 130, and by the year's end, you should be able to start your dreams. Chanel has raised tons of money, and she gives you strategies to pray into your business. This is going to be something that when Faith Tech Grow becomes an actual, like, it's already an LLC, but when I can hire people, this is going to be my employee handbook. You will not start not one day at my company until you've read the 31 prayers of spiritual wealth. So Chanel E. Martin, your book is going to be implanted in the people that are going to grow my company. Wow. So I just want you to know I'm completely sold on just this book. It has done wonders for me. Ever since I have read it, it has been a blessing. I am seeing breakthroughs not only in myself, but in the things that I'm doing. You know, and it's literally a biblically based prayer strategy for small business owners. I want to know where on the market you're finding something like this, because it handles your soul first. And then it starts to say, this is the breakthroughs that you're coming from. And I think the ending of the chapters, because y'all, I'm plugging y'all in. I need y'all to know and go get this book. It talks about favor, open doors, inheritance, wisdom, grace, increase, protection. But at the very beginning, it starts to break down who you are as a person and the things, the generational curses that may be in your family or within yourself, and the lies that the devil has tried to tell you. And so forgiveness, faith, fear, rejection, submission, those are just some of the topics that are in the first chapters of this book. So I'm believing, Chanel, that after this podcast, you're going to sell quite a few copies. The link is going to
Thank
be in the
you.
description, and my team and any future members that will be on my team will read this. And I feel like it's going to jumpstart whatever it is that you're supposed to do. And I'm being so intentional about this book. I'm believing that God is going to do some amazing things in 31 days for my life. And it's going right into
Yes.
2019, but I don't never wait. I don't have a specific date on anything. All you got to do is
Right.
stay consistent. But I just want to thank you, Chanel E. Martin. I got to say that, Chanel E. Martin, for coming on the show. You know, I was truly transformed at the conference, and
Wow.
even the direction that I'm starting to take the podcast is different. You know, I'm just like, at first I was like, oh, I don't want to be too Christian or whatever that is, whatever that image that people have of being Christian and that box that people try to place us in. I think we're at a season of breaking out of that box. Yes, I'm a Christian, but guess what? I can have money. Yes, I'm a Christian, but I can have fun. Yes, I'm a Christian, and we can speak deliverance, and we can talk about just obedience and being obedient to God and praying strategically over the things that you want in life and having faith that He's going to do it. So, girl, listen, you done blessed my life. I know you blessing them. So, I just want to tell you, like, just thank you. And just one more time for the listeners on where they can find you on social media, and we'll close the podcast out.
All right. Also, you can find me on social media. I'm Chanel Ebony. That's Chanel. E as in Edward, B as in boy, O as in Oprah, N as in Nancy, E as in Edward. That's Chanel Ebony. Or you can go and find me at ChanelEMartin.com. That's ChanelEMartin.com.
Yes. Well, you guys, this has been another episode on the Walk by Faith show. Tune in next week for another episode where we will continuously bring you people that love God and keep him at the very forefront of their business, as well as strategic steps that will increase your financial life, your spiritual wealth. I'm going to start saying it in Chanel E. Martin. She started that. And then also just to help you improve in all areas of your life from a holistic perspective. So that's all, folks. Tune in next week. It's a wrap. If you want more content like this, make sure you give the Walk by Faith podcast a 5-star rating and leave a review on Apple Podcasts. You can follow me on Instagram at __ the pretty plug, and follow all updates on the podcast at WBF Podcasts. To those already supporting the show with a monthly subscription, thank you. If you're not already a supporter and you'd like to help make this show possible, tap the link in this episode's description or visit anchor.fm/Jasmine-A-Stith to become a monthly supporter. That's all, folks. Tune in next week for another episode on the Walk by Faith show.